Hi everyone, it's Melissa, the owner of Nolting. I want to welcome you all here today for our Exploring Automation. I have Melody behind the scenes here helping with the Zoom and helping with our chat and doing the video. I also have Joyce Flowers that is our dealer from New York, and she is joining us today. The main thing is going to be here in our training facility in Hiawatha, Iowa. So like normal, you can always contact us for any questions or your local dealer. So with that, let's get started here. I posed the question about automation the other day, sent it out to everyone as far as let's talk about automation. When you think about quilting, there's 4 ways to quilt. There's free motion, and this is on any machine, regardless if you have a Nolting or if you have a different brand. You have 4 ways to quilt. You have free motion, you're driving the machine with your hands, you have ruler work, and you have pantographs. And lastly, you have automation. Automation has brought a lot to the quilting industry and the experience that your quilting journey can bring to you. But there's also misconceptions and myths out there on what people really think about automation. People that have been free motion for a long time, sometimes they might think that it's tough to learn, or that it's cheating, or it only benefits a business, or it removes creativity. With those items, I want to clear some of that up. You think about tough to learn. Over the last 5 to 10 years, everyone probably now either has an iPad or a smartphone or a computer, and you're becoming more techie. And so we've all had that, had to change over the years to be able to learn how to use new tools to help develop us and to make us more efficient and productive in our lives. That's exactly what the automation does. It's not hard to learn. That's what we're going to teach you here today, or show you, I should say, and demonstrate here today, that they're pretty simplistic once you start looking at them. But sometimes people are hesitant and they think that I don't even want to look at it because it might be overwhelming. Well, that'll give you the chance today to be able, as we demonstrate both the Quiltmagine and the Intelliquilter. Next one is cheating. Some people have thought about, well, automation is cheating, and it's not. It's not cheating at all, and it's not removing your creativity. Today, if you're free motioning, what you're using is your hands. And so your hands are driving that design, driving the creativity. But if you think about it from an automation perspective, the creativity is now coming from an abundance of creativity that comes from your mind and different patterns that you can advance from. So when we look at this on the automation today, you can just do basic things. Push the button or see a design, push the button, have a quilt out. Very, very simple. But you can get into a lot of different creativeness once you start going into designs. You can design your own pattern. You can do all kinds of flips, and all of a sudden one design becomes something completely different. So it gives yourself a way to use creativeness in a different fashion. You could use automation and complement it with your free motion and complement it with ruler work as well. So all the various forms of quilting can come to play when you use automation. Oh, the last one is it only benefits a business because they're the ones that are using their machine over and over and over. Well, not necessarily, because everyone likes to be more efficient in today's world. Automation could be more efficient for doing quilts for their loved ones, their family members, or like I mentioned, it just gives you a different perspective and a different way to quilt versus using your hands and moving the machine yourself. So it's definitely not just for a business. So that gives you a little bit of perspective of how I wanted to start the conversation today and open it up and talk about those kind of myths that automation really brings a lot to your quilting journey, and have an open mind today as you go through the demo process. I have 2 automation machines that we're going to look at today, the Quiltmagine and the Intelliquilter. First thing we're going to do is the Quiltmagine. If you're interested in looking more at the Quiltmagine, we have brochures out on our website, front page of what Quiltmagine is, and also you can follow through on the 3 different versions that Quiltmagine has. And it gives you a way, if you're interested in it, fill out the form. I'll give you a call back, or your local dealer will give you a call back, and we can go through to see how it fits with you in your quilting journey. This this is our Quiltmagine. You actually purchase your own tablet. So you can do a Surface Pro or a Surface Go. We have a Surface Go on here. It is lower processing speed, but for us, we're doing more demos. For you as a consumer, you're going to be, a lot of people like using the Surface Pro because it has a faster processing speed. You buy your own tablet, and then everything else comes with the Quiltmagine when you purchase it from us. Quiltmagine is specific to a Nolting brand only. You cannot put our Quiltmagine on a different brand. The Intelliquilter that we'll show you after this, you can put that on other brands. A lot of other brands that it goes on to. This one we're going to be demonstrating today, the Lara. Both of them will be demonstrated on our new machines here. But you can put Quiltmagine on mostly any of the machines, but it has to have a stitch regulator for the Quiltmagine. Much different than our previous electronics. And you'll notice here, I'm going to talk about this in a little bit. This is a thread break sensor. That's pretty exciting on the Quiltmagine now that I'll talk through. But you'll see, you don't see a lot of any cords except for the one cord for the end cutter. There's nothing back here like there used to be. We have all plug and play on our new machine. So you can plug directly into the side and directly into the top. The Quiltmagine is ran by a belt system. So here's your belt. You have an X and you have a Y. A couple things that are really important with using automation. You see I have the laser down in here. All our machines, regardless of new electronics or older electronics, they have a laser port in the front. And now you can put it directly into your needle. That's really important when you go to use your automation, because now you can you can place your needle into your corners and your points and get that exact placement. So it's important for you to have a laser when you look at various machines as well. The other thing that makes automation very successful is the zipper system. Businesses especially like the zipper system, but people at home like the zipper systems as well. And what that means is you have two sides to a zipper system. One side that's connected to your leader, one side that's connected to your quilt. So for example, let's say you share a machine with your best friend or your sister or your husband or whoever, your partner, and you decide that you have a quilt on there, you want to take it off because the next person's coming tomorrow, they want to use the quilting machine, but you weren't quite done yet. Well, if you go to try to pin that quilt back on into the same place, it's nearly impossible to get it into the same place. What the zipper system will do is it makes it a lot more efficient and you get a lot more accuracy in putting that back onto your frame, because you actually pin or you base onto the zipper that's part of your quilt side. And now all you do, you go up, you zip it on, and now you don't have to worry about that placement. The other thing the zipper system does for you, it gets you into the right place, like I said, so your automation starts in the right place and makes it more efficient as your automation is quilting and doing your stuff on your quilt. You can be over here getting your next quilt ready. So from a business perspective, they love them because they can get the quilts on and off a lot faster. If you're in a rental position, that is a great way to be able to get your quilts on and off. And just if you'd like to if you're not finished with your quilts, to get them back onto the same position. So if you have any questions on the zipper system, let me know. I can always help you with that, or call your local dealer and they can help you with that too. So just a couple things that I thought that kind of gives you a little bit of more information around automation that will help your journey become a little bit more successful and efficient. I'm going to start with the Quiltmagine. Quiltmagine has 3 different levels to it. It has a basic level, a pro level, and it has a gold level. The basic level here, when you purchase that on the Quiltmagine, you get these 2 buttons, select and sew and pantograph. If you purchase the pro, you get all the buttons that you see here on the software today. If you purchase the gold, what the gold is, it's a yearly subscription. So every year you renew your subscription if you want to renew it, and it gives you advanced features and functions and additional patterns to that. You have to have the pro version in order to get the subscription for the gold version. So now let's go into a little bit about the different specifics on the automation. I'm going to go into select sew. That is if we're going to do a block. So the first thing you need to do is decide, right up there, I'm going to go to the block. Here's all my blocks to choose from. These are all the blocks that actually come with the software. Then you see all these extensions down here. These are the various extensions that you can get from websites, either free or purchasing, to add additional patterns to your selection. So when you add additional patterns, you save them into your own folder. So you can make whatever folders that you want. You can create folders. So if you have blocks on certain subjects, you can have all the various folders that you purchase. Just want to go over to block here now. All we do is we go down and we select a block that we want to do. I click on it and I click open. Now it's going to come up to a screen that it's asking you, where do you want to put that block on your quilt? When we first opened up the Quiltmagine program, it will ask you, where do you want to quilt at? And you tell it your safe zone, it's called. So if you were coming in the morning and you had a queen size quilt, you would mark your safe zone all the way up here and all the way down here. So on this particular one, I did it for this smaller frame. So now we have this pattern up here. Now it says, where do you want me to put it at? We're going to pretend that our block was in this area. There's different ways that you can place it. 4-point for me is the easiest. I clicked it on my pretend corner. I'm going to click it on my other pretend corner. So now there's my block on my pattern. Now you can play with it. You can flip it. You can put a diagonal. Let's say if I want to do a little bit different in there. Or maybe I just say, hey, I don't like that anymore. I'm going to go back to 0, where I was at. Right there, now I'm at a different placement, or I put it back to my original. I want to fit it a little bit differently. Maybe I want to fit it all. Maybe I want to do stitch in the ditch and go around my block. These are your selections here. Very easy to navigate. If I decide that I'm done and I want to go ahead and this is what I want to quilt, I hit quilt. You notice one of the things that I actually had it on was the cruise mode. This really helps on our new electronics as well, because if you notice, as I was going in and out of these corners, I didn't get any long stitches anymore. So it's very, very nice to use the cruise on the Quiltmagine, because it eliminates the long stitch and it keeps stitching as it goes in and out of that corner. Quiltmagine can be used on our older electronics and our new electronics, but just wanted to point out, as you get into the newer electronics, what that gives you as an idea of the quilting as well. Quiltmagine is very easy if you have to repair a pattern. Let's say you're going along and your bobbin runs out. Your repair button will come up. You could go back to your closest stitch or your last stitch. You trace it back and it literally traces back on your pattern to your last time that you stitch. So extremely easy to repair a pattern if something were to happen. The other thing, like I mentioned, the cool thing about this is now we have a thread break sensor. So anyone that has a current Quiltmagine, watch for emails. They will be coming out soon. We'll have the information on the email. We'll also have it on our website as far as how to update the software for the latest version. It's a 6-point version now that we have as a software, and you can have the ability to purchase the thread break for your current system. You don't have to buy a new machine or a new Quiltmagine to get the thread break sensor. It'll work with your current system. Going forward, the thread breaks will just be part of Quiltmagines when you buy Quiltmagines in the new systems. A couple things, it'll show you so speed is, so you can make it medium, you can make it slow, you can make it fast. And then as it was quilting, it actually was showing you how many stitches and what was left to complete. There was a little box over here. So you can monitor how much you have left. That also helps if someone is looking at Is my bobbin going to run out? Do I need to just go ahead and stop it and get that new bobbin in there? One of the things I also mentioned at the beginning was that you can use a combination with this. So for example, let's say this is your box. If you wanted to come in now and do some free motion designs, you could do some free motion designs in that box. You could do some ruler works in that box because you can use automation with free motion and with the Quiltmagine. Now let's go over and go to pantographs. So this is if you want to do your edge to edge quilting, you select on pantographs. I'm going to now go in there and select pantograph pattern. We're going to look at some leaves. This version actually is in the pro version called the Power Panto. It makes it very, very efficient if you're going to do an edge to edge design, because right here it tells you your width and your height. So imagine getting ready to do full size quilt. You know what your measurements are. You'd put your width and your height in there. You pick out a design, and within not very much time, you're going to be able to place that quilt or that pattern on your quilt, and you're going to be able to quilt it. Now the machine's doing it, and you're not having to use your hands to quilt that pattern on there. So back to the design here, we always tell people, go left to right. Here's your options. Maybe I want to space or bring it back and not have so much spacing. Maybe I want to reduce the height because it's too big. Now here you see a little printer button. What you see on the screen is what is going to be on your quilting, your quilt. So if you want to say, I'm not really sure, does that make sense for this design in my quilt? You can print it out. You can print it out on a piece of paper. Now hold that up to say, that's what my design is going to like. Do I want to do anything and edit that design? You can stagger it. You can flip it. You can do all kinds of different things with it. The last thing that you can do is if you want to, you can quilt it edge to edge. That's your sew and zone, and you can quilt it just in a pattern. So what that means is, let's say I want to now just do kind of a pantograph. Maybe I have an edging here. I'm going to do a pantograph there. I can place it in an area, and it doesn't have to go over the whole quilt. Now let's go into the other three options, the Pattern CAD, the Quilt CAD, and the Record. These are the options on the Pro version. So I go into Pattern CAD. There's several different ways that you can use, as I mentioned, your artistic design now on creating a pattern. You can draw and start from scratch, all your different buttons over here. You can start actually from, let's say you want to go into start from a spiral. You can start from things and add. Say I like the flowers and I want to start from there. I can now draw and make a pattern on my own. So there are lots and lots of various creative type things that you can do in doing your own pattern. Okay, next thing is the Quilt CAD. There's the Quilt CAD. This is if you want to lay your whole quilt out. Here's your quilt. You put in your size, your height, and your width of your quilt, and then your block size. How many blocks across, how many blocks down. Now you can go and you can select what you want for your blocks. So if I want to do teddy bears for my blocks, there's my pattern. Now, if I want to place them into these blocks, I touch the blocks I want to place them in, and I place the pattern. Now, if you want to do even more customization, say I want to edit these blocks. I can now edit those blocks, and now I have some teddy bears going the other way. Last one is record. A lot of people like the record function if they've done a lot of pantographs before, or if they have a lot of different patterns that they like doing in their free motion. You can record those patterns. Now that's your own pattern that you can repeat in the automation. So now that alleviates you from having to use your hands, your wrists, and your shoulders on quilting that pattern. Their help button is very nice. Lots of tutorials in here on importing various designs, on borders and corners, on how do you just sew a block, how do you do pantographs. So there's a lot of things in here they've added over the last several years that to bring that experience to you, so it's a lot stress-free for you and very, very easy. As I mentioned, automation can be really easy when you pick your design. Each thing that you do, either your block or your pantograph, you have one page you're working with. When you're on your phone or on an iPad, you have lots of pages you're working with. So when you put it in that perspective, this is very simplistic, a simplistic way of using automation through the Quiltmagine. Then when we get into the gold card, and this is the gold card here, what you're getting there are a lot more advanced features and functions. You're able to do, this is a popular one, the eclipse. So if you have an applique and you want to quilt around that, you can quilt around that. There's a lot more in doing corners, some fonts, lots of great high-level editing type features in the gold function. And you get more patterns as well. All these different ways to use the automation. We also have training on that. Joyce, that's on the Zoom call with us today, she's our educator. She does several different classes here in Nolting. She also does classes online, and she does classes in other locations. For example, she'll be in Arizona soon, and she does a lot of one-on-one too. So if there's something that you're more of a person where you like to learn one-on-one, you can schedule a time with Joyce, and she's more than willing to do a Zoom call one-on-one for an hour, 2 hours. And that way she can assess where your needs are at. If you're a beginner, if you're in the middle, if you're advanced and you need some help with those advanced features, she's a great resource for all of us. This is the Intelliquilter. Both are Windows-based systems. This one's actually a system that's not on the belts, but it's actually on the motors. There's 2 motors that run the Quilt or the IQ, right here and one over here. Once again, these motor systems can go on the older version of Noltings, the new versions of Noltings, and several other brands that are out there. Joyce is an IQ dealer as well, so she has a wealth of knowledge and she does education on IQ. IQ also has a couple additional features that Quiltmagine does not. When you get to IQ and you want to free motion, you push a button and it releases the motors. And it does have a horizontal channel lock, vertical and horizontal locks that you can do if you want to do some free motion from the front and doing some horizontal vertical lines. You can use that from the front, or if you want to do your basting from the front. Thread break sensor, just like the Quiltmagine now, the thread break sensor is here. It's amazing. When the thread stops, the machine stops, just like the Quiltmagine. You're quilting along, you're over here doing your thing. If your thread breaks, and you do not have a cover here, it can get sucked into that head there. So I do recommend, if you're using an automation system, to get a cover for that, and we sell that. And like I said, both our systems now have the thread break sensor on there. That's a big feature for both of our systems. Now let's go over to showing you the Intelliquilter. The Intelliquilter, if I want to go and it will ask me if I have work in progress. Do you want to replace it? I'm going to say yes. Do you want to erase it? I'm going to say erase. So if you had something in progress, you can save it and go back to that. I'm going to erase that. It also tells me my project time and my stitching time. Here you have, it's asking you at the beginning, similar to the Quiltmagine, pantograph, block, or line pattern. You can record stuff as well. I'm going to go and show you a block. Here you have a couple different ways to define your block. You can mark it on your quilt, you can trace it on the quilt, or you can just enter your dimensions manually. I'm going to mark it on my quilt. Go up here. And now I can just close my block. Say it's finished. Here's all my designs. I have my pantographs and I have the blocks. And just like the Quiltmagine, you can bring in other items from the internet as well. And there's lots of patterns out there that you can get free patterns, or you can get you can pay to get patterns as well. They kind of go on and on and on. So lots to pick from here. I'm choosing my pattern now. Now from here, I can do all kinds of things. This is where I edit it from. I can change the width, can make it bigger. I can do it with my fingers. I can do it with my buttons over here. I can change the height. I can rotate it if I want. I can scale it, make it bigger. Kind of the same thing as what you saw in the Quiltmagine. It just looks and feels differently. I just want to say I'm finished. Now it comes up with another thing that you could actually add patterns to it. You can modify it again. You could repeat the pattern. So this is where you get into your editing on the Intelliquilter. I just say I want to finish it and I'm going to sew my quilt. This one I select my pattern. It's done. You can reuse it or you can realign the quilt. Intelliquilter has 3 different levels. It has a basic IQ. What that really means is this is good for a lot of times for a business person. If they just want to do edge to edge, you can get into it at the minimum price. The next version, you can do both your blocks and your pantographs, and there's some editing. And then your highest version is high level editing that you can do. As you can see, the Quiltmagine is a very simple 1 page. So Grace has done an amazing job over the last several years with enhancing that system. IQ is an amazing automation system as well. As you can see, they're 2 different systems though. So you're really looking for, or we're looking for, myself or the dealer that you're working with, kind of what you're expecting of what that automation system is going to do for you. Especially with our new electronics, both systems work amazing. So, and there's a price point difference. IQ is going to be more expensive than the Quiltmagine. So there is a price point difference and some people have a limited budget. So we work with all that as you're going through the process to determine which one will work best for you and your quilting journey. Once again, hopefully you enjoyed the demo today on both the Quiltmagine and the IQ. If you have any questions at all, give us a call, 319-378-0999, or your local dealer, if you have a local dealer, or Joyce. Joyce is always out there on our Facebook page, willing to help answer questions as well. We will be having some classes coming up, so watch for our website, watch for our emails. And if you go directly to our website and you go to, at the top, new machines, and then it goes to automation, all the information is there. And happy quilting, and we look forward to hearing from you.